So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Devan. Again, if anyone has any tech issues, put them in the chat or message Devan, and hopefully he can help you out there. Welcome to Community Energy Wales's webinar on education on climate and energy. I'm Izzy, and I'll be chairing and giving a little talk of my own in just a second, and I'll get straight into the outline for today. So right now we're in the introduction to today's talk. We're going to have 6 speakers, including myself, talking today, and I will introduce them as we go. We're going to have a little 5-minute break in the middle of our speakers, just so everyone's not staring at a screen for an hour and a half straight. At the end, we should have time for a 10 or 15-minute Q&A, but this might not be enough time to answer everyone's questions. And so you are more than welcome to put questions in the chat as speakers are speaking or once they've finished. And our speakers hopefully should be able to answer some of those in the chat and then some of them in the Q&A. And then at the end of the session today, we're going to have details for our working group, which this webinar is launching, and then we'll close the session from there. So why are we having this event? First of all, to hopefully share knowledge, inspire and overcome barriers when it comes to education on climate and energy. And one of the main reasons is to launch Community Energy Wales's new education and outreach working group. I'll give you exact details at the end, and those will also be emailed out, so don't worry if you just missed the end of the session there. This is something that our members have asked for and we see the importance of, so that's why I'm starting up. So why climate education? The UN recognises education as the key to addressing the climate crisis. Knowledge is power. If you don't know what's happening, you can't tackle it. And education on climate encourages people to challenge their attitudes and behaviours, challenging damaging systems, make more informed decisions that can help build resilience and more resilient communities, come together and take collective action, and so much more. And on the right here, we have just 4 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which are all in some way related to climate and related to climate education, therefore. And now I get into talking a bit about my work. So first I'll talk a little bit about me. I'm Izzy McLeod. I am the Operations and Development Officer for Community Energy Wales, where I work part-time. I also work part-time as a freelance climate communicator and artist. My work covers a broad range of topics. I talk about everything from sustainable and ethical fashion to queer ecology to renewables. And the majority of this work focuses on climate justice and intersectionality. So that's looking at the ways that lots of different issues all intersect with the climate crisis and all overlap and affect each other. I also talk a lot about climate anxiety as a young person working within the climate movement. But today I'm focusing mostly on reimagination, which is an idea that goes across all of my work, and hopefully give you an idea of what that's about. On the right-hand side here, I have me in front of the Big Pit Mining Museum, which is actually where I did my dissertation project for my master's degree, and a resource here created in collaboration with A New Direction on their teaching for creativity. This is on connecting to climate change for Key Stage 2, just to give you a little bit of an idea about
climate justice, intersectionality, climate anxiety.
So yes, I am, well, depending on who you ask, I'm aging out of being a young person, but a young person in the climate movement, and so have known from a very young age that climate change is real and it's scary and that our future, if you ask mainstream media, is bleak. And that's what I've grown up with. And often when you look at mainstream media, when you look at the news especially, we're given one narrative, and that's that the future is scary and disastrous, and that we're looking at floods and droughts and mass migration and all of these issues. And I don't want to shy away from the fact that this is the reality for many communities now, and this will be the reality for even more communities in the future. But I think it's dangerous to only focus on this area of the climate crisis. Only being shown images like this as our future leads to dread, hopelessness, and ultimately inaction. If this was all I focused on in the work that I do, I'd want to give up, get into bed, and maybe never leave again. Maybe that's a little bit dramatic, but I definitely stray away from climate work anyway. And just being shown this future and sort of hailing the doom that is to come is often known as climate doomism, and this can be just as dangerous as climate denial in some instances because they both lead to inaction and not doing anything. So what can we do instead? Well, one question I like to ask is why we are tackling the climate crisis. And the big one here that is sort of the focus from the images before is limiting these catastrophic effects. However, I don't think that just curbing emissions and just limiting catastrophic effects is why any of us are doing this work. You'll probably have reasons that aren't on the screen, but for me, it's about climate justice and tackling injustice. It's about access to clean air and better health, building safer and more resilient communities, supporting and improving biodiversity, which gives us as humans who are part of nature a better connection to nature. If we're tackling the productivity and consumer culture, that gives us more space in life for rest and joy, and within that as well, fairer pay and better working conditions for all, and so much more. And already, I think this gives us something better to work towards than just limiting disaster. And one thing I never waver in any of the work that I do is that building a better world is possible. No matter how far along we get, no matter what happens, we can build better than we have right now. And one of the activities that I like to do, I often do this with little ones, but these pictures are all from Community Energy Wales's Away Day back in the autumn. And I asked people, what do we want the future to look like? And this exercise, this is just one way of doing this, but I asked people to sit down for 5 minutes and imagine what they want their future community or the future world or future area to look like. And I think within Community Energy, at least, Community Energy Wales at least, you can see a similarity in our shared vision for the future. Some of the things that we've got in here is better water quality, better biodiversity, community gardens and access to local food, no more fossil fuels in communities powered by locally owned renewables. You have better access to transport and active transport, happier communities, the list goes on. And already, if we compare this or look side by side at these visions for the future and at the pictures we looked at before, you think, okay, I'm not wanting this, and this is something I do want, and that gives us a lot more to work towards. And one thing I will say, if you look at these pictures and look at the pictures here, that community energy to me is reimagination in practice. And all of these communities who are doing work currently first had to believe that doing something better was possible. And so that's where reimagination comes into things as well. Sitting down, going, what can we do? What is possible? And then building and working towards that. So yes, that is about it for me. I will now be handing over to Claudia from Energy Sparks, and I will stop sharing there, and hopefully Claudia can share the screen there.
Okay, thanks for having me along today. I'm Claudia Towner. I'm the CEO of Energy Sparks. Energy Sparks provides a school-specific energy management tool and energy education program to support schools to reduce their carbon footprint. We started back in 2017 as a project of a local charity in the Bath area, Transition Bath, and then we transitioned to a separate charity in March 2020. We did significant initial tool development of our online energy management tool, thanks to funding from the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. And that funding also supported our growth across the UK. We're now working with over 750 primary and secondary schools across England, Scotland and Wales. That includes at the moment 111 schools in Wales, and that number is growing all the time. At the moment, we're able to offer Energy Sparks free of charge to state schools, supported by funding from the DfE, from Welsh Government, local authorities and a number of charitable trusts and foundations. So our service, the key component of our service is our online energy management portal, which shows pupils, staff and volunteers how much energy the school is using each day. We have specific user-focused dashboards designed to put the school's energy use into context and to present insights that are applicable to specific user groups. So we have an adult-focused dashboard and a pupil-focused dashboard. We provide bespoke analysis of schools' energy consumption data with suggestions of actions that the school community can take to save energy and reduce the school's carbon emissions. We provide engaging color-coded graphics to highlight to the user when they're using energy. For schools, a very easy way to cut consumption at little or no cost is to target the energy use during the school holidays, at weekends and overnight when normally nobody is in the school. So we use our color-coded graphics to immediately flag up those opportunities for how much the school is using during the school holidays, for example, which is highlighted in the charts in red. You can drill down into our charts to explore the data on a yearly, a weekly, a daily, or even a half-hourly basis. We provide online, email and text alerts that give warning of changes in a school's energy use, highlight problems with energy consumption with focus recommendations to save energy. Our alerts also celebrate if schools are doing well, and they're all linked to pupil activities so that the pupils can go off and take action that is particularly targeted at the problems that their school is facing. We have over 120 pupil activities to support the students to take impactful action. And those activities have downloadable lesson plans, activity sheets, presentations and videos. They're designed to make it as easy as possible for school staff to support their students to take action. Some of our activities are collated into programs and focus campaigns. So if you want to target a particular issue at your school, for example, holiday gas consumption, then we have a program that groups together a range of activities just to address that specific issue. When the pupils carry out activities, they're encouraged to record the activities that they do through the Energy Sparks portal. They get points for every activity that they record, and then that goes towards their position on the Energy Sparks scoreboard. And at the end of each school year, we have prizes for the top winning schools. So that's an extra motivator to keep the students wanting to engage and keep doing activities related to energy saving throughout the school year. For adult users, we provide more detailed analysis to support them with things like heating system and boiler control. So lots more insights there if you want to dig into the detail. We also have a school comparison and benchmarking tool that allows you to compare your school against other schools within your local authority or other similar, say, primary schools or special schools. Alongside the energy management portal and all the online resources, we also at the moment have funding to provide in-person and virtual education workshops, assemblies and in-school staff training to support schools and really kickstart their engagement with Energy Sparks. We also have some funding for virtual one-to-one energy audits. So that's essentially a video call where ideally a group of staff and students have a session with one of our auditors to go through their school's energy data and our analysis and to have a bit more hand-holding to support them to develop an energy action plan for their school. We provide lots of online training for school staff. Some of it's focused on specific user types at the school, so to support, for example, estates and site staff. Other training is more focused on, for example, embedding Energy Sparks within the curriculum. We provide email and phone support to schools and then regular newsletters with energy saving tips. In terms of our environmental impact, schools that engage with us can normally expect to save around 10% off their energy bill in the first year of engaging. So that equates to savings of between about £2,400 and £6,000. It's a big range there at the moment because schools are on quite a range of energy tariffs. Some are now paying some very high rates, whereas other schools are on lower long-term contracts where rates are still quite cheap. That savings is also equivalent to about 8 tonnes of CO2 for an average 2-form entry primary school. If you're looking at secondary schools with obviously much higher consumption, then the potential for cost and CO2 savings is much higher. And some of our most engaged schools have achieved savings of up to 30%, typically by addressing the 3 issues: that's holiday use, weekend use, and boiler heating start times in the morning. Lots of schools have their heating coming on at something like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, just because nobody really understands what's going on with the heating system, and there's not been, until they join Energy Sparks, that transparency from the data to be able to actually see what's going on when nobody's in the building. Pupils and staff also obviously take home energy saving life skills to reduce their own personal and family carbon footprint. And then here are just some insights from last term. We analysed the schools that we had on Energy Sparks at that point, and the schools with enough historic data on our system so we could compare their consumption in autumn term 2022 with autumn term 2021. And we saw over 300 schools see an average electricity reduction across that time period of 10%. That was saving in total about 460 tonnes of CO2. And we saw over 200 schools see an average gas reduction of 19%, which is really impressive. And that saved about 900 tonnes of CO2. So some really great savings there. Alongside the environmental impact, Energy Sparks is also empowering pupils just generally to be able to take more action to reduce their school's carbon footprint, to see the impact of their actions, which is really important to keep them motivated and actually see whether what they're doing is worthwhile, to develop better environmental awareness, to participate in leadership and collaborative opportunities. So really working with school leadership to support them with saving energy, to build communication and analytical skills, so from looking at real life energy data, to be motivated to take responsibility for their school, to have opportunities to influence and engage school and community leaders, and to develop positive responses to climate change, and to help tackle climate-related anxiety. In Wales, Energy Sparks, as I mentioned, has over 100 schools. We're currently being supported by the Welsh Government to produce a Welsh language version of Energy Sparks. That is already launched. I put the link here directly to the Welsh version. We have translated all the main dashboards and all the pupil activity resources. We're now just completing translation of the more detailed adult-focused analysis. And that translation is due to be completed by April this year. We've already got a really successful partnership with the community energy company Ynni Co-op, who've been supporting us with the rollout of Energy Sparks across South Wales, and with delivery of workshops to some of the schools across that area. We also now have an Energy Sparks in Wales steering group with members drawn from schools, community organisations and local authorities, and they are supporting us with the rollout of Energy Sparks to more schools across Wales, and making sure that Energy Sparks is well aligned with the Welsh curriculum and other energy saving activities taking place in Wales. If you're interested in working with us, then I've put some suggestions here for next steps, depending on who you are or what organisation you represent. So if you're a school or a local authority, the best way to proceed is to go to this link here to enrol your school. in our services. If you're a community energy group, then it would be great to be able to talk to you, to look at opportunities to promote Energy Sparks to the local authorities and schools within your area. As I mentioned, we're just at the moment working largely with schools across South Wales, but we'd like to move further north across the country. We can provide marketing materials if you're able to help us in that way, and happy to discuss opportunities for joint education workshops. If you'd like to contact us, then please use the hello@energysparks.uk email address. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Claudia. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will make sure that that presentation is sent out so you have all of those details if you need them. Next up, I will be passing over to Sara from GwyrddNi.
Sorry, right, we're there. Yeah.
What GwyrddNi is, we are an organisation which works on climate change, and we're based in the community and led by the community, and we work in 5 areas in Gwynedd, that is prosiectau, Dyffryn Ogwen, Dyffryn Peris, Dyffryn Nantlla and Penllyn. And we bring people together to discuss and act locally on climate change. We have a partner in each area, that is Cwmni Prosiectau yn Prosiectau, Partneriaeth Ogwen in dros in Penrhos, Ynni in the Dyffryn Peris area, and Ynni in Penllyn. And then each of these they're all social and community organisation, and then ymwneud, which is also a social enterprise, coordinates the organisation. If you come across the 5 areas, here we are. These are the 5 areas if you want to see them. We are funded by the community fund of the lottery, and then yes, the main work of GwyrddNi in a way over these last 2 years is to facilitate community assemblies on climate in these 5 areas. And the idea is to get 50 members in each area who are representative of the population locally and come together during a series of 4 community assemblies on the climate and try to answer the question, how can we in Prosiectau or Dyffryn Peris respond locally to climate change? And then the aim is to, in a way, is that we facilitate, so this group can answer the question by co-creating a local action plan. So this is a community part of our work, which links into with an education programme, and I am the education officer, and I am responsible for the education side of GwyrddNi. We've been working with 20 schools in the 5 areas, a mixture of primary and secondary. And what is our educational programme essentially is the initial session on the climate, and yes, so what climate change is, how it happens, and so on, and then try to discuss the climate. And by the end of that session, we have worked out what essentially we need to do in order to respond to climate change. And then the second step is a tour of community climate solutions, where we'll go into more details in that in a session that will have pictures. But essentially, the children from the schools go on some sort of carousel around the various climate solutions that are underway locally, and then get the children together to hold a climate assembly in their own area, where they can discuss and see what more locally we can do to tackle climate change. And then they present their findings that way to the community assembly, the adults assembly, and their ideas then feed in to the work of the community assembly and to the action plan which is being developed. And the next step then is an opportunity to take action, do something practical. Ideally, this is going to be based on some of the ideas that have come out of their assembly. And we're trying to work out how to do that at the moment, and then an opportunity to celebrate at the end. And the hope is that celebrate what has happened. So these are a few pictures of this session on the climate of the different schools. And then here's some pictures of the tour in different nantllais. They had an opportunity to see a lot of the work that Orsaf has been doing locally, which solves other problems in the community, but also climate solutions. And you can see here an opportunity to see community transport, electric transport, of course. You can see the making space and the repairing space, and also the community garden that's being developed at the moment. We were supposed to visit the allotments, but it was raining heavily, so we didn't get an opportunity to see the allotments. They had an opportunity to hear about them and to build on little pots out of paper in order to plant things at home, and also the people created space in Orsaf. And yes, and so that's had an important message that they can act on climate, is we get across how we feel about it and what we can do about it. So that's different. Different Ogwen here, an opportunity to see a load of different things. Again, we have community gardens, a community hydro scheme in the area, and an electric car, library of things, that is where it's possible to lend things rather than books, the food bank, and also the bike workshop where local people can borrow bikes and hire bikes, and also they can learn how to repair bikes and so on. So different Paris. We have other things again. We have the Teg, which is a local community. They sell vegetables locally, and they go to see the work that the North Wales Rivers Authority is doing on the rivers and the lake, to keep the rivers and the lake clean. And they went to Ynni Paris, and they went to the allotments and community orchard. You can see the electric community car, and also visited a local company, Open Energy Networks, which is working to help people and businesses to manage their energy. So I just hope that's not great, but I'm going to show a film Brofestini. I hope this works.
Mae heddiw yn rhan o taith hirach mae'r ysgolion sydd yn cymryd rhan yn rhaglen addysg gwyrddni arno fo lle. Mae'r taith wedi cychwyn gyda gweithdy yn yr ysgol. Fydden ni'n cynnal cynulliad cymunedol ar yr Hinsawdd yn yr ysgol. Felly fydden nhw'n cael cyfle i trin a trafod a meddwl be yn fwy da ni angen bod yn gwneud fel cymuned i ymateb i newid hinsawdd. Dyna chi'n cael heddiw mewn ffordd ydy cyfle i fynd rownd a gweld yr holl bethau sydd yn... Wel, dwi'n deud yr holl bethau, dim ond rhai ohonyn nhw ydyn nhw. Wrth cynllunio'r diwrnod yma, da ni wedi gorfod gadael llwyth o bethau allan achos o'na jyst ddim amser i fynd rownd yr holl bethau. A da ni'n mynd â bobl ifanc o gwmpas rhai o prosiectau ni, ond y bwysicach na hynny, da ni'n dangos yr ardal iddyn nhw a beth sy'n mynd ymlaen yn yr ardal, a hynny'n cyd-destun newid hinsawdd. Pan da ni sôn am newid hinsawdd, yn amlwg bobl ifanc ydy'r dyfodol, a beth da ni'n drio dangos iddyn nhw, a dim pregethu iddyn nhw, beth sy'n o'i cwmpas nhw, beth sy'n mynd ymlaen o'i cwmpas nhw. Ac yn fwy na ni'n pregethu bod nhw jyst yn cael gweld, a gweld i ardal nhw drwy llygyd chydig bach yn wahanol gobeithio. Le fan'na. Bach. Nath i ymwneud chi mynd o fama i rownd y byd. Ie. A nos nos. Pa mae economi drwg den. Bingo. Protect the economy. Economy ni really drwg. Da ni gwerthu llechi a yet again mae economy ni drwg. Make it make sense. Da ni wedi creu yr log store yma. Da ni'n cymryd coed gan y cyngor a'r parc. Da ni'n llifo fo, da ni'n dod o i fama, da ni'n siopio fo, da ni'n reid o yn y shed,
a wedyn da ni'n reid allan i bobl sydd ddim yn gallu fforddio cynnesu tai nhw.
Mae'n efo bod pobl yn gallu gael heating ag yn y bwyd felly.
Pam dyn nhw'n gallu fforddio fo'n dyfrig?
Like the bill cost of prices o pethau yn mynd I fyny loads. Bydd pobl yn gallu fforddio dim byd yn diwedd.
Da ni'n sôn chydig bach be mae'r gwaith dref werdd yn neud a sut mae yna cysylltiad rhwng gwaith da ni'n neud yn natur a hefo pobl a newid hinsawdd.
OK, chi'n sgwisio fo. Sgwish, sgwish, sgwish. Wedyn, yn y dau tre yma, mae gennym ni chydig bach o llwch lli, ond mae yna hada bloda gwyllt I fewn o fama. So, da ni'n cwbod ni'n neud ydy jyst mynd blop. Ni'n neud cystadleuaeth taflu bom hadau, seed bom, wedyn mae'r enillydd yn cael mushroom. Ceitad.
They are very quiet. They don't use fuel. Exactly. So mae'n bwysig iddyn nhw, neu siŵr bod gennyn nhw rhai sy'n special, sy'n gallu cadw prisio electric I lawr ac yn para'n hir. So os gennych chi rhywun adra, neu nain y tais a falle, a mae bulbs nhw di mynd, dewch nhw ddod I fewn iawn.
Dwi fod yn dysgu bwydydd gwahanol lle maen nhw'n tyfu a sut ni angen tyfu pethau hynny. Felly da ni'n gallu gwneud tyfu gwahanol planhigion yn blaenau, felly da ni'n gallu cael rhai sy'n iachach I ein cyfle.
Brilliant.
So I paused the video because it just says thanks to everyone who's helped. This gives you a taste of the tour and excitement that's going on around there. And then, can I just try to move this? It's not working again. Why can't I go to the next one? Can you see? Here we are.
Brilliant.
So just talk very quickly, because I know my time's come to an end. Just the step, well, we just finished now. That is the climate assemblies, where we bring the children from the schools together in each area, and they have an opportunity to note the community assets, things that are important to them in their community, and they want to keep going in the future, but the vision for the future. You can see this on the left-hand side. You have the assets in mapping the local assemblies. On the right, they can visualize the future on their own to start with, and then we shared this so they could form a collaborative vision. And then in the center, they work in groups to draw definite ideas about what they can do now, so that we go from where we are now in order to reach this vision in the year 2040 or 2050. And then just a few pictures here when they shared with the adults, community climate assemblies, and then their ideas fed into the work of the assembly, and they form part of the action plan. And then to say very quickly, the next steps are action, celebration, and then we're looking forward to phase 2 of GwyrddNi. Then we're planning what that will be. And that's it. And sorry if I've gone a bit over time.
And Sioned is here, so I will introduce Sioned from Ynni Sir Gar to take over, if that's okay.
Yeah,
my name's Sioned Haf. I work for Ynni Cymunedol coordinator in Carmarthenshire, and what I want, part of this event is to discuss 2 educational resources that we've developed, which is relevant to what we're discussing today. Just a bit of context first about Ynni Sir Gar. So it's a social enterprise We have established, obviously, in Carmarthenshire, we work with our community to tackle climate change by reducing energy costs, promoting energy efficiency, tackling fuel poverty, and where possible, help more community renewable energies to be developed, where the local communities can produce their own renewable energy and, of course, keep the profit locally. So the largest project that Ynni Sir Gar has, it's a 500 kilowatt wind turbine, which has been established in the little village of Salem near Llandalo. It's been running since 2016, and we've reached the situation now where we can reinvest money from the wind turbine back into the community. At the end of last year, we launched two separate funds, a community fund that's worth £20,000, and has been reinvested in decarbonisation project in Carmarthenshire. So that's gone to a couple of different projects, things like insulating houses and community halls. So we have one project of solar panels, two on a local community hall. And then the second fund is more specifically for young people, or children and young people from 8 to 18 years old. And this is in order to help young people to develop the projects they think is really important in order to tackle climate change. So, for example, we have 3 projects Ynni from this fund recently. One is to create a compost toilet in a local primary school, and I think the first compost toilet in Carmarthenshire, if not all Wales. So there's an educational element there, which is very important. And the second is to promote a local secondary school to start a swap shop, so share clothes. And having this wind turbine, clearly this gives us an educational role in Carmarthenshire. It allows us to invite local schools to come and see the turbine and also to hear about it, the history of how it was established, how it's built, and also about the ownership, what this means, and how the money is reinvested in the community. But one thing I noticed in doing this work, I've been doing this work for a couple of years now, is that there's a gap in information in their communities for schools. This just some very simple figures about the Teaching the Future report a couple of years ago, and it just very simply that firstly, young people don't feel well informed. They don't get the education they need to prepare them for the future that is going to be impacted by climate change. But on the other hand, the teachers feel the same, that they don't have the resources that they need, or they haven't had the training in order to discuss the issues regarding climate change and renewable energy. So here's the gap. And what Ynni Sir Gar tries to do is to create resources that can help teachers and learners to have education about these issues. And the interest in Ynni Sir Gar specifically is look at this from a cultural and humanitarian point of view, rather than technological and environmental things. Look in terms of things, people's feelings and ideas and their behaviour, our ways of living. And as he said earlier too, try to imagine what the future we want to have, and we want to try to link this in the resource with the idea of active citizenship. And I'm interested too, as Izzy said at the start, in climate anxiety, because we come across this amongst young people. So we want to bridge how people can be an active citizen and perhaps to mitigate feelings of despair. So this is the fruit of our labour. And so promoting the climate action in communities is one of the resources is planned around the idea of getting a DIY manual with different ideas in this. Because, as I said earlier, there's a lot of different issues being all linked together in climate change and energy issues. So this is created jointly with learners and campaigners and researchers, and also it has been developed, fitted in with the curriculum for Wales. So this, I've shown you the English version here, but there's a Welsh version too. As I said earlier, the idea here is that the resource helps people to imagine what sort of communities they want locally and how can they develop it, what are all the steps in order to reach that point, in order to create change locally. And there are tips available and ideas here about how to act in the community. And the idea is by doing these activities, young people can learn by implementing them, and it encourages people to look at international examples of campaigning for the climate, and to look at all the projects that exist already in their communities, because this is what comes across, despite the fact we've heard in Sir Gar, the turbine's been going since 2016. A lot of people don't know about it, and I'm sure this is true in a lot of different communities in Wales. It's important that teachers and schools try to look at all the projects that are working and link into them. So it's hard to go through the whole of the resource with you in 10 minutes, but this shows you what it looks like, really, and the sort of themes that we're discussing in the resource itself. So it's not just energy, things like food and transport and the role of education in all this. And then we have activities, different activities. So in a way, what we're trying to do is create a push of activists. So examples here, encouraging pupils to organise activities like the Earth Hour at the top left, and when there's headspace to think that it's fun to do these things, and it's all cumulatively, it contributes to creating a better and more green future. So this is available on the website of Ynni Sir Gar at the moment. We're also trying to get it on Hwb Cymru website. For those who don't know, Hwb Cymru is the Welsh Government's website for digital resources, and this is where teachers tend to go to look for resources in order to help them with the subject that they're teaching in the school. And also, while I'm here, I want to talk a bit about other resources that we have been part of developing a couple of years ago. This is a website, I said, it's on Hwb Cymru, where teachers go for resources. And if you type in at the moment community energy, we developed, I think this is the only thing that comes up. It's not, we want a lot more. So this resource based on a graphic knowledge, so it's a story, and it's about, it's for learners from 7 and 11 and 14, and the story follows the main character, Gwenno Jones, you can see here. I'm showing the Welsh version here, but there's an English version of this available too. And the story follows Gwenno, who lives in a former mining village, and then in the day she starts to question things, such as the cost of energy, local costs, history of energy. Halfway through the story, she finds an invitation to go to a date to discuss the potential of having a community energy project in the village. And basically the narrative explains what community energy is, what is the importance of local ownership, and how can it impact the local economy. And part of this then, the idea is that pupils read the simple story, and then they get these activities in the class to develop their understanding of local community energy specifically. So these are two of the resources that we've been developing. As I said, this TikTok is a graphic novel. This is available on the Hwnt Cymru website, and then community action, climate action in your community is on the website of Ynni Sir Gar, but we're working to get this on the Hwnt Cymru workshop too. Everything's available to download, and it'd be great if people could promote this, because that's the trick. I think we've got this, and then for future teachers, so we need to make them aware that it's available for them. And it would be great to work with Energy Sparks, because I think this fits in very well with the work that you're doing in schools in South Wales. And so I'm going to email Claudia after this session. So, well, thank you very much. I finished. That's it.
Thank you, Sioned. I love the illustrations in those pieces. They look amazing. Again, any questions in the chat, and I'll make sure that those presentations are sent out so everyone can go back and look at them. Next up, I will introduce Dan McCallum from Ynni Co-op.
Thank you, Izzy.
Yeah, so just
so I don't have a presentation. I'm just going to talk about our work. So as Claudia said, we work in partnership with Energy Sparks. I work with a charity, and we've established 2 co-ops.
Cooperatives,
co-ops, which is a wind farm near Pontardawe, and also Ynni Co-ops, which has done a lot of solar panels on about 100 roofs throughout the whole of Wales. And we finance a educational officer, Jen James. She also works in schools in Newport. That's why I'm doing the presentation. So the first year we had a grant from WCVA to pay for her, but then we're paying for her ourselves because she's doing such great work. But we doing the same sort of work as Sioned and Sara said in schools to encourage the children to make a difference in schools. I like the fact that Energy Sparks, because it's free, and it's more hard data. So if the children do a campaign to cut down how much gas or electricity they use, they can see a difference in the data. So it's really good to see that. And also it's good just to see the children getting experience of seeing data, graphs and so on, which are so real. My daughter works as a data analyst for Trainline. A lot of work now in the big data world. So this is one of the benefits of using Energy Spark. And also more power in the hands of the children. As we've been said, we can see we can see that he coming on 2 o'clock in the morning, and it puts pressure on the head teacher and also the energy manager in the council who runs this whole system. And I feel in Wales we control a lot of things through the council, and it's important for us to decentralise how people understand energy, such as with the work of Energy Sparks. So the work we're trying to do, Jen works in a school uses Energy Spark, but also inspires the children to do things. Claudia has shown the picture of a lot of children wearing solar capes, and the children love dressing up. So Emily, who works with Jen, she has designed solar capes, and now making a lot more of them. And the children really love dressing up. And this work, energy warriors, we take them to see local projects in Pembrokeshire, such as Arian, to see the wind turbine there, to Brithdir Mawr, which is sustainable housing in the area. Ynni, we'll visit there to see the organic market gardening. So a lot of things that we can pay for. And also we work a lot with people like STEM ambassadors to bring them into the school. People like Blue Gen Wind, who are developing wind farms, and also we've had a great presentation from River Simple for their cars, and they've taken their hydrogen cars into the school. We're working with Terry Pugh, who worked underground in the coal mine. So he talked about his experience, and also now he's interested in the wind farms. He helps me to run our wind farm. So experience of a local person who can talk about their life is so wonderful for the children. I sort of think about a way the school can join Energy Sparks. I've worked a lot with with Pembrokeshire County Council and Swansea Council, and also Newport Council, with Ynni putting solar panels on their school. And after that, we have encouraged them to sign up with Energy Sparks on the school too. So this has been great, and also Carmarthenshire has done this too. Louise Morgan, who works in the education department, is very keen on our climate change work. But we want more councils in Wales to do this, because they have to pay for the bills, electricity and gas bills. The council has to join Sbarcynni, and it can work both ways. We can talk with the energy manager and give the positive experience of Newport and Carmarthenshire and so on. But also the school can just join themselves, and then we can use that pressure to, not pressure, but just to crystallise, say to the council, this school wants to join, but they can't because the council has the bills, so it can work both ways. We want more Welsh schools to join, and also Welsh government. It's great that they've paid for the translation of Energy Spark, because some schools in Newport that work through Medium Welsh, they wanted to use the website too, but it wasn't in Welsh. So it's really great that it has been translated now. So we want more Welsh medium schools to join and use the language, Welsh language, on that side of the website. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Again, any questions? I think there was one question for you in the chat, but we can save that for the Q&A if you like, or you can answer it in the chat. Last but not least, definitely not least, we have Chloe from Art and Energy.
Hello everyone. I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to join this amazing session. what an incredible group of people you've got speaking. And the thing that I love about the things that people have been saying is the focus on hope, the focus on positivity, alleviating eco-anxiety, doing the building of utopia being something that we're all in the process of building together right here and right now in the way that we're doing it. And it makes me feel really excited and happy to see so many people doing such great things. So thank you. So I would like to tell you initially about Art and Energy. We're a collective of artists, makers, thinkers and tinkerers that are based in the southwest of England, but we do work all over the place. We are 5 years old yesterday, so I'm feeling very excited about being 5. And the first project that we did was, this is a postcard of this project. It's a piece of solar art called Dawn Breaks. And what we wanted to do was to show that you can make solar artworks that generate electricity, or make solar panels that can also be beautiful. And the reason for wanting to do that was to show people that our visions of the future might be better than we might be able to even imagine right now, and that we have the capacity through imagination to do more than we might even realize we can do now. When we're going to be spending the next year making lots more of these, so if you'd like to see any more solar artworks and solar artworks in action, so using the energy for something, then please do follow what we do. And through doing this, we realized that we could teach people how to get hands-on and make their own power. And if you've never made a solar panel before, let me strongly encourage you to do it, because there is nothing quite like the magic of realizing that you've captured energy from the sun in a system and you've turned it into electricity. It's just quite the most breathtaking feeling. You never believe right up until the last moment that you're going to be capable until you do, and that's a very special thing. So that feeling of the wow factor, that feeling of the magic of possibility, is something that we try really hard to capture when we're designing our participatory art projects. And there's all sorts of reasons why you might choose to work with artists. You can help give a voice to people who don't feel brave enough to show support for your projects. You can help people find steps on their journey to exploring something new. You can open up doors of possibilities in the imagination. You can help people find their own path. You can alleviate eco-anxiety. The list goes on as to why one might invite people to be creative in response to the climate emergency. Now, we often work with community energy groups. We particularly work with Plymouth Energy Community, Totnes Renewable Energy Society and Exeter Community Energy, but we also work with others as well. And over the last, well, throughout 2020, we invited people to explore the world through the eyes of moths in a project called Moths to a Flame. So you may have come across it, you may have even got involved. 58,000 people across the UK and overseas were involved in helping us build this project, where we were, which we made for COP26. So we took 20,000 moths made by people all over the world up to COP26 and displayed them in the Botanic Gardens for COP. And the idea was about trying to allow people who wanted to be more active and to show that they supported the work that we're all doing in response to the climate emergency, and they want to see more action on climate change, but maybe we're not brave enough to be in a march, maybe we're not brave enough to hold up a banner or to write a letter to their MP, but they were willing to show support. So those moths were sent up. But I suppose even more importantly than the demonstration of support was the invitation to connect with the natural world. So you may or may not know that moths are a pretty awesome creature. There's moths all around us, and you don't have to look very hard to discover moths. And moths, in their attraction to light and the destruction that has for their lifestyles, speaks to us about our own dependency on energy, our own addiction to our energy systems, and the impact that it has on biodiversity. And so that magic of finding a moth that you never realized was out there, that looking at the moth and recognizing it as a real life form that has an existence on this planet, that is doing something very special for our planet, and then thinking about your relationship with energy in relation to that. Can you ask yourself the question, could I turn the lights off? Could I, what could I do to preserve those lives? So if you're interested in knowing any more about this is a collection of poems and artworks and a story of the project you can find an e-copy on our website, artandenergy.org. And obviously that's free. There are hard copies available in our shop, but by all means have a look through. And I hope you'll be as delighted by the diversity of ways that people found to get involved and go on their own journey to respond to the climate emergency, find their own path and take their own steps and begin to get together. Now, throughout 2021, we were thinking, what on earth do we do after that? We've been doing all sorts of projects like this. This is a solar-powered night light, which we run workshops with community energy groups on. This is inviting people to make something that they can have as an eco reminder. So this is a thing that someone makes for themselves. It's got a solar panel in it, and people sit for 3 or 4 hours to share their energy stories, what they're doing in their own homes, what they're interested in, what they're worried about. They make their home and they think about the sort of home that they would like to live in the future. And then this object sits on their windowsill and provides them with a bit of magic all through the year. It provides a talking point for people to share with their families, to share with their friends, and to feel really proud about. And it helps people make those next steps. So while we've been working on those, we've also been developing a project called Bury the Giant, How to Bury the Giant. So how to bury the giant. The giant is the climate emergency. And we're going to be going very small for our new project, looking at mosses. So mosses, you'll understand, began to inhabit the land on the earth 450 million years ago. In fact, they are the species that are responsible for us living in a world that is habitable for us. They've made the world a habitable place for humans. And they're tiny and they're really resilient. They are able to exist in every territory. They're able to thrive and learn, and they do amazing things. They obviously absorb, sequester carbon, bury carbon under the ground. They also capture toxins from the air. They remove everything from radiation to, NOx, and they capture them in their bodies and purify the air. They create places where things can grow. So they create the right environment for seeds and other plants to grow. They create earth. We're really excited by this new narrative as a way of helping people understand that tiny actions can make a massive difference when we all work together. And that doing work to preserve wetlands and peatlands is going to be really important for us, from creating environments which are carbon rich in the future. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do the mass participation element to this, because obviously we like working with lots of people and we know that we're only a small team. So we basically try and create environments in which people can do their own thing in their own way. And I'm going to share my screen now to introduce you to Bury the Giant Club. So Bury the Giant Club is an online platform that anyone can join for free, and it has a load of resources and ideas and things that people can do. And I'd strongly encourage you to share some of the amazing resources that you've shown us today on this space. Now, this is the welcome for Bury the Giant Club. So hello and welcome to Bury the Giant Club. I'm Chloe from the Art and Energy Collective. We're a group of artists, makers, thinkers and tinkerers, all using our skills to create a brighter, greener future. And we've been inspired by moss to create this new mass participation art project called How to Bury the Giant. Now, the climate emergency is overwhelming. It's the giant of our times. And to bury the giant, we need to act more like mosses and harness our creativity. This year, we hope you will join us and develop your own work of art, music, poetry, writing, cooking, growing. You can choose whatever way you want to be creative that appeals to you. And by the end of the year, we hope that you will contribute one of your pieces to an exhibition and a book to raise funds to reduce carbon emissions and support people who are in fuel poverty. And we'll share the details here. This mega mossy challenge welcomes anyone anywhere to join in and have some arty fun. Every month, you can join us online and we'll explore the fascinating miniature world of mosses to find inspiration and ideas for your creative journey. There will be simple activity sheets, prompts, and fun creative challenges that you can do on your own or with your group. You'll meet other artists and makers, moss and ecology experts, climate scientists, people exploring the tiny creatures that live in moss and the way that the mosses support all of life. We'll hear from people with carbon and moss stories, from the moors and the woodlands, and even from the pavement outside your door. And we'll find out what sort of mossy magic is happening near you. We hope you'll share your ideas and suggestions as we go so that we can all learn from each other and be inspired. We know that everyone is creative in their own way and we all have something unique to offer. And although each of us is small, like mosses, we can make a big difference for our planet. So, now that you're here, have a look around the site and let us know what you think. What is my top message? My top message is find the poetry, find the magic and the art in what we're all doing, because everyone here is doing incredible work. And to connect with a broader range of people, to connect with people who don't really know that energy and the environment is their thing yet. The magic of collaborating with artists of all forms to find those kind of human, mythic, deep stories that connect us all to ourselves and to the natural world. That's my, that I think is really the key to really successful creative engagement and making even more of the fabulous work that everyone's already doing.
Thank you, Chloe. We probably only have about 5 minutes now for some questions, so feel free to put some in the chat. The first one I'm going to address, because it gives me a good chance to share about the working group, is Duncan has said, interested to know, that's the wrong question. There needs to be one source where all climate activities in Wales can be brought together. Does it exist? As far as I'm aware, it doesn't. But I would invite you, if this is something you're interested in, to join a working group, and this is part of what the working group could be working on, is a resource, is a place to put all of this together. These details will be sent out in the email afterwards so that you can join then, but I'll also put Gwenol's email in the chat so that if you want to join, you can join through that. The first one is at 10 AM on Tuesday the 7th of February, but don't worry if you can't make that, because I'm sure you'll be able to make subsequent ones. So yeah, there's a few things in the chat people are pointing out, and working group would be a great way to make some of those things happen. And there's Gwenol's email. Oh, that's sent as a picture. Does anyone have any questions for anyone in particular? I know there's been some asked in the chat. I know one, I think, for you, Chloe, was about how you made the solar panels. Do you make them from raw materials?
Oh, yeah. So we make them from solar cells. So we have learned how to cut solar cells, and there's a glaze that is over the surface of the solar cells that lets light through. So you can actually have green and gold and pink and all sorts of different colored solar cells. So it's just essentially using exactly the same way that we currently build solar panels, which is a kind of sandwich of glass and glue and solar cells connected together and then glue and then blah, blah, blah. But we've just been a bit more imaginative with the way that we put them together. So it is all very fun, and I welcome people to come and join us to learn how to do it at some point.
I think that's similar to what Dan put in the chat, that they've also been doing that. Yeah.
That's fab. I don't know which Dan it is, but if it's Dan from Demand Energy Equality, they're brilliant and definitely recommend doing that.
Does anyone else have any other questions before we close? No? Okay. If no one has any question, okay, David.
I just thank you for organising the event. It's been very fruitful, and I think lots of potential here for future development. What struck me in observing the session is this necessary focus on connecting and locality, and driving things from grassroots upwards, and starting in the education system seems highly appropriate, particularly with the advent of our new curriculum. But it also seems to me there's a lot of rich material at the international level that can be shared, and we'd be very happy to share video material that we have available from aroundtheworld.com, where they've been looking at cooperative solutions to climate change and related issues. So very happy to share that material with other people. Thank you.
Would you be able to put that link in the chat, David? And I can make sure it's shared afterwards.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, lots of these things, again, are things that can definitely be shared in the working group and further forward from that. Did anyone else have any comments, questions in the last few minutes? Otherwise, we can finish early.
Just to say, if anybody
wants to get any of the resources that are shared today, to contact us in Gymru Energy Wales, and we'll try to distribute them out. If you can't get them from any specific speaker, come back to us.
Yeah, I think the plan is to gather those materials and send them out to everyone who has attended afterwards. Amazing. So I think we can leave it there then. 5 minutes early. Everyone can have 5 minutes to themselves. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. As I said, details for the working group and those presentations will be sent out to everyone. So hopefully you can keep connected. Thank you to all of our speakers. It's been inspiring for me to be here, and yeah, we'll hopefully see you all very soon.